Hello, my beautiful people. We are going to continue on with chapter 5 in the book of Genesis. And again, excuse me, the tip of my nose is itching so bad tonight, and I do not know why. So excuse me for that. Yes, I know I have a big nose. Excuse that too. So let's continue on with chapter 5, and I'm going to not really go in depth with this because it's the descendants of Adam. And but I will kind of hit some key points in this chapter. And so the first section is the introduction to the genealogy, and verse 1 and 2 talks about Adam's signature. So if you guys are familiar, not familiar, please go back, listen to my very first video. It's my introduction. But I will say that I go through I'm doing Bible study from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelation. And right now we're in the book of Genesis. We're in chapter 5, and what I do is I go through the chapter, and I break down the chapter, and I break down the verses. And then we study them and research them. And so I'm sharing with what I've learned with you guys, so we could do Bible study together. And because there's a lot I didn't know until I did the Bible study, which is why the whole main reason for Bible study is a good thing. Because it's spending time with God, and I get to share with you guys. So please hit that like button if you can, so maybe we can reach more people. And let's go ahead and get started. So chapter 5 verse 1 and 2 talks about Adam's signature. And 1 and 2 says, "This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their names Adam in the day when they were created." So the book of genealogy of Adam. So there's good reason to believe this is the end of Adam's direct account, which was preserved and passed down to Moses, who acted as an editor. And the history of the heaven and earth, which is in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, that we already went over, comprises the things regarding creation that no man witnessed, and was given by revelation to either Adam or Moses. That history ended at Genesis chapter 2, verse 4, and from there to this point is the account or the record of Adam. And when it says, "and called them mankind," the human race, mankind, was given the name man by God from the beginning. It is not sexist or gender-based to call the human race by the general heading, mankind, because God does this. In verse 2... Hold on a second, sorry. Oh, excuse me. Okay, the next section is talks about the descendants of Adam through Seth. And verse 3 through 5 is Adam. And 3 through 5 says, "And Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 935 years, and he died." So back then, toward the beginning, they lived for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. But as we progressed over time to today, most of us don't even live to 100. But back then they did. Why? I don't know, but I'm assuming because God took care of them. As far as like everything was pure, more pure back then. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so in verse 3, he begot a son in his own likeness after his image and named him Seth. So we are all sons and daughters of Adam, born fallen just like Adam. But we weren't born fallen. He was born pure until he fell, and Eve fell with him. And verse 4, it says, and he had sons and daughters. Well, these daughters of Adam's became the wives for the sons of Adam. So Adam died when he was 930 years old. That's a lot of years to see grandkids and great-grandkids and great-great 2 and 3 and 4 great-grand. I mean, it went a long way. And if I'm reading this correctly, which I don't know why I didn't put this in my notes, is that on the days, let's see, Adam was 130 years old when he and his wife had Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And he had more sons and daughters, and he eventually died when he was 930 years old. So verse 6 through 17 is from Seth to Mahalalel. So there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's 2 Enochs. And this is talking about the second Enoch. So Seth lived 105 years and begot Enosh. I'm sorry, did I read that wrong? No, this is Enosh. Okay, yeah, this is Enosh. And Seth lived 807 years and had sons and daughters. So all of the days of Seth was 912 years, and he died. So Seth lived 105 years, and then he had Enosh. Then he lived 807 years and had more sons and daughters. And then Seth ended up dying when he was 912 years old. That is a long time. And Enosh lived 90 years and begat Canaan. And Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begot sons and daughters. And all of the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. So Enosh lived 90 years. He was 90 years old when he had Canaan. Then he had more sons and daughters. And Enosh ended up dying when he was 905 years old. And Canaan, we're in verse 12 now. And Canaan lived 70 years and begot Mahalalel. And Canaan lived after he begot Mahalalel 840 years and begot some more sons and daughters. And all of the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. So Canaan lived 70 years. So he was 70 years old when he had Mahalalel. I hope I'm saying that right. Then he had more sons and daughters, and Canaan ended up dying at 910 years old. Then you have Mahalalel. And he lived 65 years and begot Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he begot Jared 830 years and begot sons and daughters. And all of the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. So Mahalalel lived, he was 65 years old when he had Jared. Then he had more sons and daughters. And then he ended up dying when he was 895 years old. So next we go on to verse 18 through 27 from Jared to Methuselah. Methuselah. And I'm just going to kind of skim this a little bit and go from my notes. So 18 through 20, verse 18 through 27. So Jared lived 162 years when he had Enoch. This is the second Enoch in the Bible. Then had more sons and daughters. And Jared died when he was 962 years old. I think this is 962. Enoch lived, he was 65 years, then had Methuselah after having Methuselah. I'm so confused. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm sorry. I was a little confused there. Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 360 and 5 years. Excuse me. So Enoch lived 65 years and then had Methuselah. And after having him, Enoch walked, or him or her, Enoch walked with God for 300 years and had more sons and daughters. Enoch lived for 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Enoch lived 365 years, and he walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. So he didn't die. God took him up to heaven. And Methuselah, or however you say her name, or his name, lived 187 years and begot Lamech. So Methuselah died 969 years old. Excuse me, I'm gonna take a drink. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Verse 24. So Enoch, the son of Jared, was carried away to God. Walking with God means walking by faith. My hair's going crazy. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7, it means walking in the light. 1 John chapter 1, verse 5 through 7 is walking in agreement with God. Then you have Amos chapter 3, verse 3. And then also you have Hebrew chapter 11, verse 5. And Hebrew chapter 11, verse 5 tells us the foundation of Enoch's walk with God. You cannot walk with God or please God apart from your faith. If you don't have faith, you have nothing. Literally have nothing. So, verse 22, after he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God. So, he began to walk with God in a special way after Methuselah was born. That name means, when he is dead, it shall come. Enoch had a special awareness from God that judgment was coming, and this was one of the things that got him closer in his walk with God. And in reference to Jude chapter 14, also tells us that Enoch was a prophet. And in verse 27, Methuselah, died. I really wish I could understand these names, but I cannot. Died at 969 years old. His long life, so it's a he, was no accident. After he died, the flood came. God kept him alive longer than anybody to give people as long as possible to repent. Excuse me, guys. My nose is just itching. I don't know if it's allergies or what. I don't know. Okay. And I know that's probably annoying, constantly seeing me scratch my nose. I do apologize. I'm looking at my notes here to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so verse 28 through 32 is from Lamech to Noah. And that's 28 through 32. That's takes up the rest of our verses in chapter 5. So Lamech lived 182 years when he had a son named Noah. Saying this one will comfort us concerning our work and the toil of our hands because of the ground which the Lord had cursed. And Lamech lived after he had Noah 595 years, and he had more sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so, in verse 28, if the genealogies are complete and carried with no gaps, then that means Noah was only born 14 years after the death of Seth. Seth died in year 1042 from creation, and Noah was born in year 1056. And that's crazy to think. So if there's no gaps, that means Noah was only born 14 years after the death of Seth. Only 14 years. And again, Seth died in the year of 1042 from creation. And Noah was born in the year 1056. And Noah was 500 years old when he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. It's crazy. All right, so this ends chapter 5. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment. I love discussions, as long as they're positive discussions. And even if they're, you're upset or worried or anything, I don't mind talking. I have ears. I can listen. I'm not judgmental. So, but I do stick up for my faith. So, I hope you enjoy this, and have a good night, everybody.